The sudden, unexplained disappearance of a beloved mother of two, Mrs. Eleanor Vance. Her children, young and innocent, are left in tears, clutching her belongings as the community rallies in confusion and fear. The initial shock and grief set a somber tone, immediately drawing the audience into a tale of mystery and potential injustice. In the quiet town of Willow Creek, Eleanor Vance was known for her warmth, her unwavering kindness, and her devotion to her two young children, Lily and Timmy. She was the heart of her family, a pillar of strength in the community. But her world was shattered when she vanished without a trace, leaving behind a void that no one could fill. The townsfolk, once so peaceful, were now gripped by fear and suspicion. Eleanor's disappearance wasn't just a missing persons case. It felt like a personal loss to everyone who knew her. As the days turned into weeks, the search for Eleanor intensified, but yielded no results. The police, led by the stern and seemingly infallible Chief Marcus Blackwood, struggled to find any concrete leads. Chief Blackwood, a man accustomed to having everything under control, was visibly frustrated. He often spoke dismissively of Eleanor, suggesting she might have simply run away, perhaps due to financial troubles or a secret she was hiding. He publicly downplayed the severity of the situation, irritating the community and causing them to lose faith in his investigation. This dismissive attitude created a palpable tension, as if Eleanor's disappearance was somehow her own fault, a narrative that infuriated those who knew her true character. Amidst a growing despair, a young and overlooked detective named Sarah Miller, fresh out of the academy and assigned to the cold case files, couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Eleanor didn't seem like the type to just disappear. Sarah, who had always felt like an outsider in the department, constantly overshadowed by her more experienced colleagues, particularly Chief Blackwood, felt a personal connection to Eleanor's plight. She started digging deeper, going against Blackwood's orders to let the case rest. Sarah spent countless hours re-interviewing witnesses, revisiting crime scenes, and poring over old records, searching for a thread that Blackwood and his team had missed. Her persistence, fueled by a belief in Eleanor's innocence, began to uncover inconsistencies in Blackwood's initial assessment. She found small details, overlooked whispers, and strange coincidences that pointed toward a more sinister explanation. The breakthrough came when Sarah discovered an old, encrypted message on Eleanor's computer, hidden deep within a secure folder. The message, barely legible, contained cryptic references and a date that coincided with a mysterious meeting Eleanor had scheduled just days before her disappearance. Sarah, determined to decipher its meaning, worked tirelessly, eventually cracking the code. The message revealed a dark secret. Chief Blackwood had been extorting Eleanor, threatening to expose a long-buried family scandal unless she cooperated in a scheme that involved embezzlement. Eleanor had refused to participate, and the message was her final act of defiance, a desperate cry for help that went unanswered. Sarah, now armed with this explosive evidence, confronted Blackwood in his office. The air crackled with tension as she laid out her findings, exposing his lies and his involvement in Eleanor's disappearance. Blackwood, cornered and exposed, finally broke, revealing that he had indeed silenced Eleanor permanently to protect his own reputation and career. As the truth about Blackwood's crimes began to surface, the town was thrown into chaos. The man they had trusted, the symbol of justice, was revealed to be a monster. Sarah, now facing the wrath of a powerful and dangerous adversary, knew she had to act quickly. She gathered all the evidence she could find, racing against time to bring Blackwood to justice before he could silence her too. The tension mounted as Blackwood, desperate to cover his tracks, started to intimidate anyone who got in his way. Sarah felt the weight of the entire town on her shoulders, the pressure almost unbearable. She knew that one wrong move could cost her everything, but the thought of Eleanor, Lily, and Timmy gave her the strength to persevere. In a dramatic turn of events, Sarah managed to present her findings to a higher authority, a special task force that had been monitoring Blackwood's activities for some time. The evidence was undeniable, and Blackwood's reign of terror was finally coming to an end. He was arrested in a swift and dramatic operation, his fall from grace swift and complete. The power dynamic in Willow Creek shifted dramatically, with Sarah emerging as a hero, the underdog who had taken down the mighty Chief Blackwood. The community, once divided and fearful, was now united in their relief and gratitude toward Sarah. The tables had turned, and justice, long denied, was finally served. As Blackwood awaits trial, Sarah, hailed as a hero, starts to receive anonymous threats. The person who helped her crack the code and decipher Eleanor's message goes missing. The sense of relief begins to fade, replaced by a chilling realization that Blackwood's influence might still be at play, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his chance to strike back. What else is Blackwood hiding? Who else is involved? And will Sarah be able to protect herself and the one she loves from the lingering darkness that still threatens to consume Willow Creek? The fight for justice is far from over. Sarah, basking in the temporary glow of public adoration, found herself unable to relax. The threats against her, though veiled and seemingly untraceable, were becoming more frequent, more pointed. They weren't just empty warnings. They felt like a countdown. Simultaneously, the disappearance of David Chun, the brilliant cryptographer who had helped Sarah decode Eleanor's final message, sent a jolt of fear through her. David wasn't just missing. He had vanished without a trace, his apartment ransacked, his phone dead. The police, now led by a cautious interim chief, seemed content to label David's disappearance a separate incident, perhaps related to his own complex life. But Sarah knew better. David's expertise had been pivotal. His disappearance felt like a deliberate move, a warning directed straight at her. The challenge wasn't just about bringing Blackwood to a final reckoning. It was about uncovering the extent of his network, the hidden players who might still be operating freely, and protecting herself and anyone connected to the case. Sarah's investigation, now operating largely in the shadows, took on a new, more perilous dimension. She delved into the embezzlement scheme Blackwood had forced Eleanor to participate in, uncovering layers of complexity she hadn't anticipated. The money hadn't just disappeared. It had been laundered through a web of shell companies and offshore accounts, some connected to powerful figures within Willow Creek and beyond. Blackwood hadn't been working alone. Sarah started connecting dots between the financial irregularities and influential businessmen, politicians, and even members of the town's elite social circle. Each connection led to more questions, more danger. She found herself navigating a labyrinth of deceit, where trust was a luxury she couldn't afford. The cryptic messages she received intensified, sometimes appearing as anonymous emails, other times scrawled in places only she would find them. They seemed to taunt her, to play on her fears, to suggest that Blackwood's reach extended far beyond the prison walls. The sense of being watched became almost unbearable, a constant companion that fueled her paranoia and drove her forward with a desperate urgency. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. While reviewing old case files related to a separate corruption investigation, Sarah stumbled upon a name that sent a chill down her spine. Marcus Blackwood's name appeared as a witness, not just a suspect or an officer, but as a key witness in a case dating back over a decade. This case involved a high-profile murder that had never been solved, a case that had mysteriously gone cold despite compelling evidence pointing to a prominent local family. The connections began to crystallize. Blackwood's rise through the ranks had been meteoric, fueled by secrets and silenced voices. Eleanor's disappearance wasn't just about the embezzlement. It was about her accidental discovery of links between Blackwood, the old murder case, and the powerful family he had once served. The threats against Sarah, the disappearance of David Chun. It was all about silencing anyone who threatened to expose the truth about that long-ago crime. Sarah realized that Blackwood's power shift wasn't just about falling from grace. It was about a desperate attempt to regain control, to ensure that the past remained buried. She knew she had to act quickly. She gathered all the evidence, linking Blackwood to the old murder case, the embezzlement, and the current threats against her and David. She faced a difficult choice: expose the full extent of the conspiracy, risking everything, or play it safe and focus only on Blackwood's current crimes. Sarah decided to take a calculated risk. She arranged a secret meeting with the lead prosecutor handling Blackwood's trial, presenting her findings on the old murder case. The prosecutor was skeptical, wary of reopening a decades-old investigation so close to Blackwood's embezzlement trial. Sarah pleaded her case, emphasizing the danger she and others were in. As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a sudden chill. She glanced out the window and saw a familiar black sedan parked across the street. Her heart sank. She knew Blackwood's associates were watching, waiting for their chance to intervene. The realization hit her. They knew about her meeting. They knew she was closing in. Sarah had to move fast. She couldn't trust anyone, not even the prosecutor she had just confided in. She had to find David, to bring him to safety, and to expose the entire conspiracy before it was too late. The clock was ticking, and the stakes were higher than ever. Sarah's decision to reveal the connection to the old murder case sent shockwaves through the investigation. The prosecutor, now faced with undeniable evidence and the implicit threat to Sarah's safety, agreed to reopen the cold case. This development shifted the power dynamics dramatically. Blackwood, already facing life imprisonment for extortion and conspiracy, now faced additional charges related to obstruction of justice and potentially murder. But the real power shift occurred when Sarah, using her knowledge of Blackwood's network, managed to locate David Chun. David wasn't just missing. He was being held captive by one of Blackwood's most trusted associates, a ruthless enforcer known only as Silas. Sarah's rescue of David wasn't just a personal victory. It was a symbolic triumph, a reclaiming of control from the forces that sought to silence them. With David safe and their combined knowledge, Sarah and the prosecutor now had the upper hand, the ability to unravel the entire web of corruption that had ensnatched Willow Creek for decades. The trial proceeded smoothly at first. The evidence against Blackwood was overwhelming, linking him to the extortion of Eleanor Vance, the embezzlement scheme, and the obstruction of justice related to the old murder case. The prosecution, led by the determined prosecutor Sarah confided in, painted a damning picture of a man consumed by greed and power. However, as the trial neared its conclusion, Sarah began to notice unsettling patterns. Key witnesses seemed hesitant, their testimonies subtly altered. Information seemed to leak to the press before it could be properly presented in court. And then, there was the anonymous tip Sarah received, a cryptic message warning her that the entire trial was a setup, a distraction designed to protect someone far more powerful than Blackwood. The challenge now was not just to secure conviction for Blackwood, but to uncover the identity of the hidden puppeteer pulling the strings and to prevent their escape from justice. Sarah, fueled by the anonymous tip and her growing sense of unease, began investigating the trial itself. She delved into the backgrounds of the key players, the judge, the jury, even the prosecution's own team. She discovered unsettling connections, hidden relationships, and potential conflict of interest that pointed to a single, chilling conclusion. Someone within the system was actively working to sabotage the trial and protect the real mastermind. Simultaneously, Sarah and David worked tirelessly to re-examine the evidence they had gathered, looking for any overlooked clues that might lead them to the hidden figure. They combed through the financial records again, tracing the money trails beyond Blackwood's known associates. They revisited the old murder case files, searching for any mention of individuals who might have had a motive to control its outcome. Their investigation led them to a network of powerful individuals, businessmen, politicians, and even judges who had a vested interest in keeping the past buried. The lines between right and wrong blurred, and Sarah felt herself becoming increasingly isolated, unsure who to trust. The cryptic messages continued, now directing her attention to specific individuals and events, guiding her closer to truth, but also increasing the danger she faced. She knew she was being played, but the game was becoming more complex, more deadly. The breakthrough came during a late-night review of the old murder case files. Sarah and David discovered a hidden compartment in one of the archived documents, containing a small, encrypted drive. The drive contained recordings of conversations between Blackwood and an unidentified individual, discussing the murder, the embezzlement, and the need to silence anyone who got in their way. The most chilling revelation, however, was a recording of Blackwood reporting directly to a voice they didn't recognize, a voice that commanded Blackwood with chilling authority. Sarah and David worked feverishly to identify the voice, comparing it to audio samples of the powerful individuals they had already identified. The match was unmistakable. The voice belonged to the town's most respected and influential figure, the philanthropist and former mayor Elias Thorne. Thorne, a man revered for his generosity and his commitment to community, was a hidden puppeteer all along. Sarah knew she had to act immediately. She gathered the evidence, including the recordings and the encrypted drive, and made a dash for the courthouse, determined to present it to the judge before the trial concluded. However, as she arrived, she found the courtroom locked, the judge missing, and the jury sequestered under suspicious circumstances. It was a trap. Sarah realized that Thorne had anticipated her move and had taken drastic measures to ensure his secret remained buried. Sarah was cornered, trapped in the courthouse with no way to reach the judge or the jury. Thorne's associates, including Silas, the ruthless enforcer who had previously held David captive, surrounded her. They weren't interested in negotiation. They wanted the evidence destroyed and Sarah silenced forever. David, alerted to Sarah's predicament, tried to reach her, but his calls were blocked. He knew he had to act quickly, but how? The situation seemed hopeless. Sarah, facing down her captors, knew she had to make a choice. She could surrender the evidence, perhaps saving herself, but dooming the trial and allowing Thorne to escape justice. Or she could fight back, risk everything, and try to find a way to expose Thorne, even if it meant sacrificing herself. The clock was ticking, and the fate of not just Blackwood, but of justice itself, hung in the balance. The tension reached a fever pitch as Sarah prepared for final confrontation, her eyes locked with Silas, the embodiment of Thorne's ruthless power. In a sudden and unexpected turn of events, David Chun, using his technical skills and a hidden backdoor he had previously installed, managed to breach the courthouse's security system. He remotely unlocked the courtroom doors, allowing Sarah to escape her captors. Simultaneously, he hacked into the courthouse's public address system, broadcasting a snippet of the incriminating recording of Thorne giving orders to Blackwood throughout the entire building. The power shift was dramatic and immediate. Thorne's carefully constructed facade of respectability crumbled in an instant. His associates, caught off guard by the sudden reversal, panicked. The judge, who had been held incommunicado, was freed and rushed to the courtroom, where he was presented with the undeniable evidence of Thorne's guilt. The prosecution, now armed with the proof they needed, shifted their focus entirely onto Thorne, effectively turning the trial into an investigation of the highest authority in Willow Creek. The tables had turned once again, and the true mastermind, the one who had controlled Blackwood and manipulated the system for decades, was finally exposed. The trial took an unexpected turn, with the focus shifting entirely onto Elias Thorne. The evidence against him was undeniable, and the community, initially shocked by the revelation of their beloved philanthropist's dark secret, quickly rallied behind Sarah in the pursuit of justice. Thorne, stripped of his power and influence, was finally brought to account for his crimes. The fight for justice, which had begun with the disappearance of Eleanor Vance, had reached its climax, exposing a web of corruption that had ensnared Willow Creek for far too long. This story is a powerful reminder that justice often requires courage, perseverance, and a willingness to challenge the status quo. It shows that even the most powerful figures can be brought down when their secrets are exposed and their crimes are laid bare. We must continue to demand transparency, to hold the powerful accountable, and to support those who dare to speak truth to power.